Hi, welcome back. This is a session about getting your basic marketing materials right. It's about how to assess what we've been doing before and essentially trying not to waste money and effort by reinventing the wheel. Even if you've just starting out in your business journey and you haven't done much before, there'll be some things in this that I think will be helpful. The first question that I get asked a lot at the moment is, will my current ads or brochures and leaflets, the things that I've been doing before lockdown came along last year or whatever, still work post COVID-19? Now, I've done a much bigger presentation and my thoughts about how COVID and the crises and the economic factors may change people's mindsets. You can find that on the website by looking in the What the Hell's Happening page, or by looking for the Custom Motivations PowerPoint that's on YouTube. But in short, most of the things that we've done before will work at least for a while. You know, assuming A, they were okay pre-COVID, that they had the right message from Maria and you had the right description of your value and all those other things that we've been talking about before. And they have no really jarring imagery. I mean, I'm thinking of things like stuff about cruise ships or crowds or people being very self-indulgent or doing things that are now unaffordable. If it doesn't jar with your audience, again, thinking with Maria in that particular, in a big way, probably most of the motivation she's had before will still be there to some extent. So look at it and think, how will Maria react? Has got anything jarring? The importance of particular motivations, whether it be wanting a treat for myself or safety, all those sort of basic motivations change only slowly. But they will be changing, and the priorities and the kind of language that people use will be changing. So as you update materials, you'll need to take account of this. But I'm not sure you'll need to panic and throw everything away. Just keep thinking about your Maria, and now with her post-COVID eyes, how should she be looking at your material? Today's major lesson, let's say this up front, is really, I guess, about doing the boring basic ABC stuff. And I'll talk about what I mean by ABC in a second. Before you go off and spend on refits, new campaigns and new launches. Before you completely redo your business model, it's worth looking at about what you've been doing before, and even if you do have to change, assessing what parts of what you did before work, so you don't throw out, as we say, the baby with the bathwater. And to do that, you need to assess your business with a critical eye, and this is a little bit like that previous analogy that I talked about before, the book cover and reading the novel. Think of it in this case a little bit more like being a tourist or being a health and safety inspector. Look at your business both those ways. As a tourist, try and gather the mushy first impression, overall assessment, the emotional feeling that people will have when they assess your business, when they come into the contact with your staff, when they come into your office, when they meet you. Think about the negatives that spoil that experience versus the things that make it special. Then you need to think like an inspector. So now go around your business, your offices, your website, all your places that people, touch points that people have to come in contact with your business, and do a detailed checklist. If they did this, if the chairs are arranged like this, what would they notice? What do they notice about the decor? Do they notice dust in the wrong place? Do they notice that your website is hard to navigate? Have you got the right health and safety messages? In other words, look at your business with a no problem too small perspective and list it. The reason why you need to do it both ways is because post-COVID-19, your customers will be looking at your business. They'll become more picky. They'll be looking at your business in more detail about particular things that worry them, whether it be hygiene or whether it will be affordability or whether it'll be the look at the particular way you've laid out your place and the kind of customers you seem to be aiming to attract. or in a kind of touristy way, sort of a way of what sort of feelings does it give me? The emotional way that people judge businesses will also remain. And this applies as much as to a business-to-business organisation or website as it does to a local cafe or corner store. The starting point is to think the overall mushy impression, and that's to look at everything overall: your website, your social media feel, your packaging, your labels, your products finishing, your style, your staff dress code, your out-of-date materials, your guest or visitor areas or toilet, or the landscaping outside your factory, your presentations, your logos, your leaflets, everything, and try and get an overall feel. It is perhaps a picture about things that people can't do anymore at the moment, but this is a picture in this slide of a backpackers in Hanoi, I think, and it's pretty much doing the right things in terms of mushy feel for their Maria, where their Maria is a kind of backpacker and of the sort that used to go to places like that. And you can see it's been laid out with all the information they need. When you come in that door, you get a feeling that there are other people, young people like me, who've been attracted out the front by having the free internet laptops out the front where they can get them. It's got all the big posters of all the wonderful things you can do. You can see that they're getting assurance that the people at desk will know about them by all the way the leaflets have been put out. There's a sign in the back about where the dining area is. There's things about Vietnam. There's symbols and colours that make it seem friendly and interesting, a little exotic, but also clean and safe. So you're getting an overall mushy impression that's appropriate to their Maria and their expectation. It doesn't look expensive and affordable, but it looks cheerful and interesting, safe and yet exotic. That's what you're trying to do when we think mushy impression. If we did a survey with any of those backpackers in that place, they probably wouldn't be able to tell us about the staff dress code very much. They wouldn't remember it, but they would have got an overall feeling for the business. And so every bit of that feeling contributes to that mushy impression. So I want you to go and around your office, your factory, your website, your store or your own hotel or whatever it is, and try and think again about what is the overall mushy impression and what makes it and what detracts from it. Then think about what you can do about that. How will your Maria respond overall? Does it look like you're proud of your business? And what can I do to accentuate the positives and fix gross negatives? Because what I want you to think about is the ABCs of assessing your current marketing efforts, which is to look at the appearance, to look at your basic materials, and to look at the content types that you have available in marketing terms to describe your business. And I really want to get across that in business, appearance, the look and feel, matters as much as reality. And even if you are a business where you have only a few buyers and people don't come to your office very much, it still matters if you look cluttered and nasty or dirty. Because, as I said in an earlier presentation, word of mouth is huge. If you've only got a few buyers, it only takes one of them to tell another 4 buyers and you've got a problem. Word of mouth spreads a lot, it spreads easily, and your staff are one of the word of mouths. If they're talking about your business as if it's a bit disorganized and cluttered, then people will find out about it. So don't look sloppy or amateur, either in your marketing materials or in your basic things. It affects your reputation, it affects staff morale, and it affects price perceptions. Now, before you do anything else, Before we start getting into creating new marketing materials, I'd like you to review your basic market materials and activities that you've done before, or ones that you've been exposed to. What worked and why? Maybe you've done expositions, your advertising, promotions, deals, networking. Think about those, and think in particular, how are you keeping in touch with your customers, and are you collecting customer contacts and updating them? Because doing marketing is no good unless you've got the contacts coming out of them. So do your materials allow you to update and collect contacts from people? And then, and we'll talk what these are in a minute, but do you have the basics required for everyday business? Decent signage, logos, pictures, displays, demonstrations set out, examples. Are your business cards looking modern? Have you got an up-to-date catalogue, business presentations, pamphlets, leaflets? Does your Facebook page look up to date, or was the last entry put up 6 months ago? Have you got a suitable website? We'll talk in another part of these presentations what I mean by suitable website. Have you got a flexible customer database that allows you to keep the right information and change it easily? And then as you look at that material that you've done already, think about the content and style of it. So you've been thinking about Maria and the value that you offer her. Does the style and content suit our current customers, the ones you most want? Does it look up to date and relevant? Does it show, and this is important, we've talked about what your key value is and the benefits that you offer, does it show them clearly? So that's really, really important. And then assuming it's something to be read or to be seen, will it stand out and be easy to read? Does it comprehensible? And maybe get someone else to look at them and judge that for you. Does it have clear, up-to-date calls to action and contact details? And then thinking about our lesson on differentiation, does it help differentiate your business? Now, many of you will have done good things, and you should reuse whatever you can. But otherwise, start thinking about what you need to do to update them. If it only needs a tweak, just needs the contact details changed, or maybe you can change a few sentences to just change what the key value is and what you're offering, then maybe do that before you go out and redo everything. Yeah. Now, as you look at your content and all the things that you've done in your marketing over the last while, I'd like you to think about sort of buckets, what I call buckets of content. And I believe that most marketing material is made up of 5 major buckets of content. One of them is, and perhaps the most important, is related to the key value, the key thing that Maria is interested in your brand or service, the differentiator point, the thing that we talked about in the earlier sessions about value and differentiator, your key message, if you like, the thing that you most want to get across to her and the reason that she should buy or use your service. The second point that the content has to have is sort of things that provide some sort of proof that you're true to that value or message or idea, that you really can deliver on it. And we'll talk more about that. Don't worry too much about that at the moment, because on the next session, focused marketing, we can talk and give some examples of that. Similarly, you need to have something that shows what your brand is, what's unique and what's differentiating about it, through style or the implication, what's your brand, what it is. Now, we all have brands, whether you're a solo entrepreneur, marketing yourself on your expertise and skills, or if you're a major company, marketing yourself on emotion or whatever, you have a branding. And have a look at it, and what is the stuff that you've been doing saying about your brand itself? So what have you got in there that makes it clear that you are, it gives you a label to you that expresses, that people can clearly say that you are you and not one of your competitors or something, but also shows your image and style clearly. Then there'll be content that is about information and facts. So the things that your customer really needs to know before they make a purchase. So even if they like your brand, even if you're appealing to them with the right values and messages, there may be certain things about style, size, quantities you deliver in, technical issues, expertise of your staff, whatever, that you need to get across to them, upcoming sales, all that sort of nitty-gritty information that we have to communicate. So look across your material and say, how have I communicated the facts to them? How easy is it to find on my website or in Facebook? If I needed to know more, if I dug in, what would I have to find? And then have a look at it across it in the final bucket of how do you communicate news about new hires or whatever else? What's some examples of what you've done to keep people up to date? So just see how you've covered those 5 buckets of marketing content and whether you've got something good on each of them. Don't worry too much about this a moment, because we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next session as well. But the point is that if you have some content, either that you've used before or, as we'll talk in the next session, you develop, that is about your branding, that is about your key value, that is about how you prove that value is real to the customer, that is about news, is about the information. If you have some of these things ready in the buckets, then it makes the creation of new material so much easier. So you don't use all of it all the time, but most marketing creation of content is a matter of putting those different pieces together on a jigsaw for different kinds of marketing material. So probably your brand ID, your style, the colors, the logo, the taglines, all the things that communicate you as a brand. Much of that will go in all materials that you make, whether it's an information leaflet, it will probably have something about your logo and be in your colors or whatever, through to a major piece of advertising that you do. You'll always have a brand ID in it. It'll probably mostly always have something about your key value, your key offer, the key message you want to get across. Not all of them will have something about your reasons to believe, the proofs of values, but it'll be most selling material where you're trying to sell people on buying. News might be in Facebook or in a promotional leaflet. Information facts might be what you need for your FAQs, your contacts and your spec sheets. So if you've done a little bit of work early on, and I suggest what you do is just get a little page and note what you've got already on all of these items, and you will start to build up buckets of content that you can put together in jigsaws for different purposes. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next session. But once you've got a basic idea for this, then you can quickly react to taking bits of these content and putting them together for your next promotion or your next advertising or your next event or whatever. You'll know what you're going to say. So think about your current content, about what they have, and if you don't have these things completely ready, start to develop them, especially after you've listened to me on the next couple of sessions. Okay, so after you reviewed this, your current materials, and you've had a thought about them, and in particular, after you've done that exercise, firstly as an inspector, going through your business and looking at all the details, and secondly, going through as a tourist, getting that mushy impression of your business, try and tell me how many stars you think your Maria, your target customer, that person I hope you've been giving flesh to as you've been going through these sessions, how would he or she, if it's a Marcus, give your business? How many stars on look, general impression, thinking across your business, across all your marketing materials, the appearance of your office, every touch point that he or she would have with your business, how many stars? Look, and if you're only 1 star, once again, it's really hard to market your services if something like basic appearance or really out-of-date materials or whatever give the wrong impression. So you need to start to think about upgrading those. If it's 2 stars, okay, sure, let's go on to the next stage. 3 stars, wonderful. But I will say, if you're giving yourself 3 stars, get someone else to give an opinion as well, right? It's worth getting an objective acquaintance or a friendly expert or whoever you can find, maybe another business person from another sector or something, just to walk through your business and do a little review. Try and do this review as if you were hiring someone like myself to come through and look at your business with an objective eye and seeing what they can see both in detail and in that mushy impression. It doesn't have to be antagonistic, it doesn't have to be Gordon Ramsay looking at a restaurant, but it does have to be objective. Okay, so you've looked across your marketing materials, you've reviewed them for the ABCs of content, and you've tried to think about whether you've got some content under each of those 6 buckets that I've talked about. Probably, with a bit of luck, you've found some that you can reuse or just tweak a little bit, or it's given you some ideas of what you could do better. Let's go on to talking about, in the next session, how you develop new materials, and particularly how you make sure they're truly focused on some of those buckets of marketing content I talked about: value, brand ID, and so on. And we'll give some examples and talk about that. Okay, see you next time. Thank you.